CJ Peterson, and welcome to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. Today, my guest is Jeremy Nunes, and we titled his podcast, Comedian and Mayor, A True Story of Joy. Thank you for coming on today, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me, CJ.
Even to me, the title is just cracking me up. I mean, how in the world do you put a comedian and a mayor together? I mean, can you tell the story behind the title? Because I'm lost.
So I've been a stand-up comedian for about just shy of 20 years. Mm-hmm. As I traveled the country, went all over the place, I would see these amazing small towns everywhere I went. And I would think, why can't my hometown be like this? So I ran for alderman and I won. And then what's that?
Congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you. And then so within 2 years, people were pushing me to run for mayor. I didn't really want to be mayor, had no intentions of being the mayor. But they were like, well, you're the smartest person here. You know, you ask great questions like, how much does this cost?
I don't know.
Is there another option?
If someone says that to me, I look at them and say, then we're in trouble if I'm the smartest one here.
Yeah, but you know, the questions like that, how much does this cost? Is there another option? Did we budget for this? Yeah, these are things I asked.
Nobody questions.
Right. And everybody's like, these are amazing questions. You're the guy to lead us for the next 4 years. And so my idea was I will run for office as a joke. I'll make it obvious it's a joke. And then as such, the people won't vote for me. I'll lose. And then, you know, I've satisfied my requirement of I tried. I can say I tried. So my campaign slogan was put a real joker in office. Because I was like, who would vote for that person?
And you won?
80% of the town voted for me.
Are you serious?
So, yeah.
Oh
so
my gosh.
That's how I became a mayor and a comedian all together.
Wow, that's funny. Okay, on The Journey is Real, we like to kind of jump back and take the journey because that's just as important as the passion itself. And so comedy being your passion, can you take us on the journey what brought you forward to where you are today? Go back as far as you need to. One guy actually said 5 years old. Try not to go back that far.
Well, when I was born,
I was born in the mud swamps of Mississippi.
So I'd always wanted to be a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in a small town, like I mentioned. So in the small town, sort of the tradition is you follow in the career path that your father did and his father before him, et cetera, et cetera. And so my family actually owned, they still do, own the trailer park of our town. Mm-hmm. So my dad really wanted me to take over running the trailer park. But, you know, the comedy bug had bit me. So I was like, you know, I feel like I can make just as much money, tens of dollars. And so that's how I kind of first got into comedy. You know, they supported me from there. So I was in college. I went to Southern Illinois University, and after I graduated from there, moved all the way to the other end of the state to Chicago, and broke into the Second City, if you're familiar with them. So I did comedy there. And then in 2007, I was making enough money I could break off on my own, go full time. So October 2007, I went full time, and haven't looked back since. So to get to where we are today, you know, I toured the country year after year. And then my dry bar comedy special released 2019, Amazon Prime 2020, and then my book about being mayor now in 2021. So everyone asks, well, what's the next step? Mm-hmm. I'm out of ideas.
Well, okay. So you've touched on a lot of different things. First off, I want to check out going from town to town to town. That's got to wear on you. And you're in front of strangers every single night. What is that like?
You know, there were moments, I don't hit the road as hard as I used to. So I got married in 2013, and it kind of helped me transition too. So between, you know, all the way up to 2013, I did a lot of comedy clubs and sort of bar type shows. And so like you said, you're in a different town just about every single night, on the road maybe 4 or 5 days a week. And like it does wear on you. There were numerous times I woke up couldn't remember what town I was in. I'm just in a hotel somewhere. Couldn't remember what town I was in. Wasn't sure what day of the week it was.
Oh, geez.
It's just one thing after another. There's no real pattern. So then what helped though is I kind of started to transition, and I was doing more basically events that are more suitable for clean comedies, like fundraisers and corporate events and churches.
Nice.
And they respect your craft and pay you accordingly. So I didn't have to be gone 4 days a week. I could just be gone 1 or 2.
Mhm.
And
And you can take your wife with you.
she does come sometimes. We've got 2 little ones that makes it a little hard sometimes, but she does come along every once in a while. But yeah, it's 100 times easier now, only having to be gone once or twice a week rather than 4 consecutive nights and 4 consecutive towns. I once had, I'll tell you, I did a show. One night I was in Indiana, then Wisconsin, then the northwest corner of North Dakota, which results in being in 3 different time zones, and a time change happened along the way. I had no idea what time it was.
That just sounds like trouble right there. I mean, just sounds like trouble.
It was like that. Is that Chicago song? Does anybody really know what time it is?
Yeah.
No.
5 o'clock somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an author, blogger, podcaster, and publisher. And so I get, traveling to different places. Being the author side of me, we go to a lot of the book shows. I'm also a cosplayer, so we do the Comic Cons. And so what I do is I generally can take my husband with me. And it's kind of nice to have my column super heavy. So he comes with me on the different traveling. It's really nice to have somebody that's on my side. When you're writing and your reviews come across, they can get kind of gutting, but your reviews are technically live, and people, for some stupid reason, like to heckle comedians. How did you handle that? I mean, I had the reviews that I knew that on those days that, I don't want to do this anymore. Why am I doing this? Those reviews propelled me forward. So 2 questions. What did you do when it came to hecklers? And what did you do to stay focused on the good portion of that? Because you're run down, you don't know what time it is, you don't even know what state or time zone you're in, and you're getting heckled. How did you stay focused on the good portions of that?
You know where I see the most heckles, by the way? I'll
Please
revert
don't
back to
say
your
Texas.
question. What'd you say?
Please don't say Texas.
No. Is the comments of like my dry bar comedy special,
Uh-huh.
and it's the same for all the guys on there. So it's a Christian themed platform. This is clean comedy, and then why people feel the need to just go in there and say, I have seen much better. Why is this guy on here? And then, I've had friends that reach out to me like, well, how do you handle it? Because it's bothering me, and so for something like that, I just say, well, if you look, 200,000 people watch that video, and it's got, say, 50,000 thumbs up and maybe 27 thumbs down, and 6 people commented that they didn't like it when 500 people commented how great it was. So you got to remember, whoever you are, you're not going to make everybody happy. Doesn't matter in what field you're in and how good you are at what you do. It's just not going to happen. So I try to remember that.
You didn't do it for that person. I tell people, because I'm a Christian fiction author. And so my Christian fiction is not your nice, neat, pretty box with a beautiful bow on top. My people trip and fall flat on their face. And so I use the Bible and God to bring them back up and bring them back around. And someone goes, well, there's too much Bible in this. And I'm just like, good, then I've hit my goal. I don't make it a secret that I am a Christian. I don't make it a secret that I'm a Christian fiction author. But what I tend to do is I tend to let people that follow me take care of them. And they generally do. My people will take down anybody.
Yeah, I have heard that once you have your tribe in place, a lot of times they'll go to bat for you.
Yeah. And it's like, but dealing in a Christian world, we're going to bounce off here a second. Dealing in a Christian world, I'm going to be completely transparent and honest here. Sometimes those are the biggest critics. How do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, like I said, that's, the dry bar special there. That's a Christian platform, and those are the biggest critics. And similarly, it makes me think of, I see behind me, my Amazon Prime special. I think that last I looked, there's 24 reviews, 23 or 5-star, one is a 4-star. So
Mhm.
generally speaking, people like it. The same special was also uploaded to christiancinema.com,
Mhm.
and then somebody there rated, I think, 3 stars and put, "I've seen better." So the worst review again comes from the Christian platform, whereas the secular platform, everybody's good with it, but the
Yeah,
Christian
and
platform,
supposed to be encouraging and supporting other Christian artists, and it's just frustrating for me sometimes.
yeah. And when I think that, and I think, you know, I've seen better. I don't say anything. I move along, to the next web page or whatever. Or if
Obviously, it wasn't for you then.
right, or if I've tasted better, I don't tell my wife I didn't like that meal. I just say, "Oh, it's delicious. Don't worry."
Try to find the good. That's what I mean. I try to do. If I find a book I don't particularly care for, or a movie I don't particularly care for, I try to find the good parts in it. Because and if there's and I don't mind bad reviews. I'm gonna say that right off the bat. I don't mind bad reviews as long as they're constructive. One of them told me, and when I was writing the trilogy, one of the guys put up, he said, not everybody gets saved right off, all the time. And you know what, he's right. Not everybody makes those right choices. Not everyone makes the choice, to accept Christ. Not everybody does that when they're talked to. And so that to me was constructive, and I was able to change that in future stories. And some people didn't get saved in time. And so that allows a bit of realism back into it. So sometimes those negative reviews help, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just destructive instead of constructive.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly that. If it's constructive and they're helping you, say, you might think about this next time. I mean, I'm all ears. Absolutely, differing opinion is good so long as it's a productive conversation. Um, but then you've got other people, to kind of swing back around. You got people like at the comedy show that will yell something out. I mean, same thing. Why do you have to yell and interrupt me? It's usually somebody's had too much to drink. Happens a lot at the church shows. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But no, usually it is typically, the bar shows or the comedy club shows where, like I said, I only do a handful of those a year anymore. But those are typically the ones you got to watch out for because they got the liquid courage pouring through them, and how it is.
That's a dangerous combination.
Mhm.
So you've taken your passion of comedy and you've taken the joke of being mayor and you've kind of put them together. I'm kind of curious to know what kind of a mayor you would be, on a side note. But you wrote a book about it. Tell us about the book.
So a lot of people kept telling me, you have all these hilarious stories of stuff that happened in the boardroom or stuff people complained about,
Mhm.
a little of everything. And they're like, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I was like, I don't have the time to write a book, Well, then the pandemic happened, and then I lost
You
all
have
my
time to write
shows. I had time. So, so that's how I started kind of putting it together, and then how do I describe it? It's a lot of people say being a mayor is similar to leading anything. So I've heard people say if you're leading an organization or in ministry, it definitely connects.
Mhm.
I've had people say it reminds me of being in the service industry when I, was a waitress or a bartender or what. So I think it connects with a lot of people. And then the best sort of uh, I had a comedian, one of my comedian mentors, kind of put together a little review. He read the whole thing, and he
Mhm.
said it reminds me of uh, Parks and Recreation
Oh, gee.
meets Lake Wabagon Days, if I'm saying that right. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah.
No, not
Uh,
that
Gar-
part, but the other one does.
Garrison Kaler, Prairie Home Companion, that guy. Um, but it's kind of like those two plus stand-up comedy. And what's really fantastic? So it's me retelling my time as mayor.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting is I didn't have to worry about character development because the story happened as characters developed through the story anyway. I didn't have to like make up, well, how does this character change in this one and this one, and sort of the natural protagonist and antagonist,
Mhm.
that all happened for real. So I didn't have to even make any of that stuff up. So
Well, I have two questions in pertaining to that. Uh,
okay.
Number one, how do people feel when they found their story in your book?
I don't know yet. I get the feeling I'm not going to be welcome back in my hometown. That's
I mean, I always get people are like, can you turn me into a character in your book? I'm also known as a literary assassin. So they're like, just don't kill me. I'm like, I can do that. My other question is a lot of times people don't, not really a question, but a statement. Truth is stranger than fiction. People, I put stories in there. Some of them are real, some of them are not. A lot of times like, well, that didn't happen. And I'm like, well, no, actually that is one of the ones that happened. And so people don't understand how wild people can be. We lived in one community where they had an HOA. And seriously, we would get fined if we had used a blue tarp instead of a brown one or a green one or a camo one. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And so it's like that type of stuff I would imagine is kind of in there. Can you share a few of those funny stories?
Oh my. So let's see. I've got one. I actually talked about this in my stand-up as well. But for one, the longest argument we ever had in the boardroom was over where we would have dinner for the Christmas party.
I'm sorry, that does sound like a church meeting.
Yeah. And then
I've seen churches split over the color of a bathroom. I've seen that stuff happen.
yeah, and that makes me think of another one we had. I asked the board to approve the purchase of 6 new picnic tables for the park. No problem, they approve it. And then not thinking, I just kind of tossed out there, does anybody care what color we get? That took 2 hours.
Are you serious?
And you know what color we decided on?
Green?
Wood.
Oh,
so there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened. One of my favorites.
It gives you like a ton of material.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorites. So in the small town, the mayor sort of wears all the hats that in a city different people wear the hat of. So I was health inspector, liquor commissioner, animal control officer, building inspector. I mean, all these things, right? And so one we had an abandoned house. Yeah, it's hard to believe an abandoned house in a small town, but so we have this abandoned house, and this family of skunks had taken over.
Oh, geez.
And yeah, and so the guy who lived next door told me, "Hey, maybe you need to go in there." I was also chief of police. We don't have police, but I was police. So, and so I'm supposed to walk around with a gun. So he's like, "Why don't you go in there as animal control officer and chief of police and just go shoot all those skunks?" I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea for me. Just, start firing off rounds in the basement. Why don't I just call?
And at skunks. I mean,
Yeah.
And the one that's shot, the rest are going to spray.
Yeah. And he's like, well, my taxes pay for better. And I was like, I hardly think you pay your taxes. But but I was like, I'm going to call, I was going to call the county health animal control to take care of that. And he was furious. He could not believe that I wouldn't go in there on my own. And he did say, I pay my taxes. He's like, no.
Then here's a gun and you go do it.
Yeah. Why don't you?
Oh, geez. That's awesome. So for people who want to find out more about you online, because you're a kick to talk to, how can they find you online?
So my website, jeremynunes.com, and that's got the links to, sort of my Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff too. Basically any social media, I'm on there as Jeremy Nunes or Front Porch Comedy. It basically depends. If I was the first Jeremy Nunes in there, then it's my name. If not, it's Front Porch Comedy.
Nice, easy peasy.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? I know you said, I don't know, but seriously, you have to be thinking forward. What is next for you?
The truth is I don't know, because my thinking was always, if I could just make it happen and get a dry bar comedy special. And then once I secured that, I was like, oh, if I could just make it happen, get an Amazon special. And then after that, I was like, oh, if I could just get this book published. And then now after, I'm like, I don't know. So what I'm working on is I'm trying to develop a whole new hour special, because I don't want I don't want people to come see me after they've watched my comedy online and then I'm telling the same jokes they've already seen. You know, I don't want to do that. But you know, people don't realize it's a task and a half to put together an entire new hour show that's
Oh,
hilarious start to end. So most comedians on average, even the better ones, it takes 3 or 4 years. So I'm working. I'm trying, CJ. I'm trying.
awesome. Well, when you get it, please get a hold of me and we'll try to have you back on.
Oh, cool.
You have about 3 minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to add?
So I've already talked about the Dry Bar special. I'm on there. I'm on Amazon Prime and Christian Cinema with the special. And then, of course, my book, You Can't Write City Hall. I promise it's hilarious from start to end. Like you mentioned, the reviews, I've only had one review so far, Midwest Book Review, if that sounds familiar to you. They loved it. Absolutely thought it was hilarious. And so I was a little nervous. I was like, oh no. But yeah, they loved it. And you can find that Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, Amazon. And if you want to know more about it, watch my videos I've made about the book, youcan'twritecityhall.com.
Nice. And just remember, people, take what laughter from life gives you and just enjoy it. I mean, there is so much funny stuff that goes on in the world that, you know, I've always grown up with the theory of, you know, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. And so 9 out of 10 times, if I'm in some sort of a stressful situation, I'm cracking a joke. And so because, you know, laughter brings joy to the heart and joy to the soul. And so, you know, guys, keep laughing, keep looking for the funny parts of life. Life can get too serious as it is. So,
Absolutely. That's always been my goal, is just to bring joy to people who need it, you know?
well, thank you for coming on today, Jeremy. You were a true joy to talk to and a kick. So I appreciate it. It brought some more laughter to my day, and hopefully it brought some laughter to y'all's day. For those who want to know more about Jeremy, you can find him online at jeremynunes.com. That's JeremyNunes.com. There's a reason why I write it down. And thank you guys for listening to The Journey is Real. We talk to real people with real passions who share a real portion of their hearts. I'm CJ Peterson of CJPetersonWrites.com. Until next time.